Iowa City needs more poll workers. And Iowa counties are facing fire danger.
And American hostages continue to be free.
Good evening and welcome to DITV's The Update, your home for news and politics.
From the local level to nationwide, we've got you covered to keep you up to date.
I'm Johnny Valtman.
And I'm Jordan Tovar.
And to start things off, we're keeping them local. And Jordan, there weren't any protests in this last week, but there's still some news here in Iowa City.
Yeah, and Iowa City is currently looking for 3 volunteers to fill vacancies on its Human Rights Commission. The group convenes on the 4th Tuesday of every month, and the position will begin on January 1st, 2024 and go through December 31st, 2026. Human Rights Commission members work to teach the public about civil rights, and they also plan programs and events in the community to curb discrimination. Other duties include working with the City Council for racial equity and social justice funding. To apply, you must be at least 18 years old, and applications are due at 5 p.m. on December 5th, 2023. To apply, you must be at least 18 years old, and applications are due at 5 p.m. on December 5th, 2023.
And Jordan, talking of vacancies that need fill, I heard Iowa is in need of more poll workers.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's just so many that they still need, and there's elections coming up very soon. So ahead of these November 7th city and school elections coming up, Iowa is still in need of over 10,000 poll workers. Last week, I spoke to Iowa Secretary of State and Election Commissioner Paul Pate about the importance of these workers.
Whether it's as a poll worker or volunteering in some other capacity in your community, it demonstrates a commitment and a part of you wanting to have a voice, if you will, in the process of what's happening. And it also helps, again, to assure the public of the integrity of the process.
Pate also says that he would like to see more volunteers, not only for the November 7th election, but beyond. This as the primaries and eventual presidential election comes up in 2024. It may have been a slow news week in Iowa City, but it's getting busy around the state.
Yes, Jordan, there weren't any protests in Iowa City this week, but there are some developing stories that are going around statewide. We're going to welcome in Cara Dulin, who's going to tell us more about some of the stories.
Thanks, Johnny. 2 commercial turkey farms in Iowa have reported cases of bird flu, leading to about 100,000 birds having to be killed to stop the highly contagious disease from spreading. Bird flu hit the country hard last year, quickly becoming the nation's deadliest outbreak ever and costing the government over $660 million. Iowa was the most affected state, losing over 16 million birds, but no cases had been reported since March. Flocks in South Dakota, Utah, and Minnesota have also been affected by the bird flu this month, adding up to over 500,000 birds. Bird flu cases are rarer in people, and there is no food safety risk. Concerns right now are the flu hitting other species and how to stop the disease before it becomes a widespread epidemic. And in Hardin County, the ongoing drought is having disastrous effects. More than a dozen fire departments were called to a farm over the weekend to respond to a combine fire that burned over 100 acres of farmland and damaged multiple buildings. There are currently burn bans in 6 counties across Iowa due to dry conditions that lead to higher fire risk. 19 counties recently had bans lifted. Jordan and Johnny, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Cara. The Israeli-Hamas war continues to develop with no real end in sight. DITV's Jayce Bertrand is in the newsroom with more updates for us. Jayce, what can you tell us about the ongoing situation in the Gaza Strip?
Well, Johnny, I can tell you now that the people of Gaza are receiving the tiniest bit of reprieve as international aid has begun arriving from Egypt.
God willing, I'm now entering the crossing, or in a few minutes, to deliver this aid and go out safely. God willing.
However, the Israeli Defense Force has increased their bombing of Gaza City. This is drawing criticism from several countries, namely Iran, who has once again threatened that any further bombing of Gaza would mean war. In response to these continued threats, the United States has sent the USS Eisenhower to join its sister, the USS Ford, in the Mediterranean. Aircraft has also been sent to several military bases in the Middle East to increase security. In a rare move, the U.S. Defense Department has issued a worldwide travel advisory for Americans. Some good news, however, several hostages have been released by Hamas and have returned to their friends and family. However, the Israeli government refused to accept 2 other hostages, citing, quote, Hamas propaganda as their reasoning. Meanwhile, the fight for the Speaker of the House enters its 3rd week. At this rate, we're approaching the record time of 1962, where the House went without a Speaker for 55 days. After Jim Jordan lost on his 3rd ballot, the Republican Party rejected his nomination, leaving the party without a head. In the wake of Jordan's ousting, 9 other Republicans threw their hat into the race, but on Tuesday, Minnesota lawmaker and House Majority Whip Tom Emmers was nominated after several rounds of secret ballots. However, on Wednesday, he stepped down from the nomination after former President Donald Trump refused to back his candidacy, leaving much of the Republican conference confused and frustrated.
It's frustrating because it's just a few, these 8, working with all the Democrats to ruin the reputation of the Republicans. But we'll earn it back. There has to be consequences.
The Democratic Party continues to stand by Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries while the House prepares for yet another vote. Everyone is wondering when the government will get itself back under control. The Gaza Strip has become a war zone, Russia has opened up a new front in Ukraine, and we are quickly approaching another government shutdown. And I'll continue to keep an eye on the situation, but for now, I'm sending it back to Johnny and Jordan in the studio.
Thanks, Jason. Pulling that back here into the United States, more specifically Iowa, we're going to take a look at this week's candidate profile. And Jordan, you took it over from me this week. What do we have in store?
We're bumping it up this week, from state representatives to United States senators. Senator Joni Ernst is from Iowa, being born in Red Oak. After being a valedictorian in high school and graduating from Iowa State with a psychology major, Ernst joined United States Army Reserve and would end up being a lieutenant colonel for the Iowa National Guard. When the Iraq War broke out, she served 12 months in Kuwait as commanding officer of a transportation company. Ernst's career in politics started small as she was elected Montgomery County Auditor in 2004 and 2008. She was then elected into the Iowa House of Representatives in a special election in 2011 and won her re-election bid to represent District 12. Ernst ran for senator in 2014, where she beat out Bruce Braley by almost 9 points. 6 years later in 2020, she won her re-election against Teresa Greenfield. In her 9 years as senator, Ernst has bunkered down on her stances on some critical matters. Ernst in her time has fought to fix Iowa's budget, has put an emphasis on small businesses and protecting women in the armed services. Ernst is a supporter of open carrying firearms, protecting life, and fixing education. Ernst was also on a short list of being former President Trump's vice president, which she declined. And she is one of 2 United States senators from Iowa, and next week we'll look at the other half. Johnny, have you seen any crazy social media posts this week?
Jordan, I've seen some crazy things these last couple of years, but it was a tame week this week. But I can't speak for everybody, so we're going to send it right back to Jayce in the newsroom. He's going to tell us what he's seen and whether it's true or not.
Well, Johnny, as tensions continue to rise in the Middle East, we're seeing a lot of fear-mongering in exchange for a few clicks on X. Earlier this week, a post went viral claiming Qatar's ruling emir, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, publicly threatened to cut off the world's gas supply if Israel continues to bomb Palestine. The video claiming this, however, was posted 6 years ago and is flagrantly mistranslated. In reality, Al Thani expresses support for Palestine but makes no threats. Next, we're going to take a look at a claim that the U.S. ordered an evacuation of their embassy in Lebanon on October 11th. The embassy's office directly denied this, affirming that operations are running as usual. However, they have warned Americans to avoid the Israeli-Lebanese border as skirmishes between the IDF and Hezbollah continue. They have also allowed non-military personnel to leave in case-by-case instances. And finally, we're going to look at a claim that blew up on X, which claimed that football superstar Cristiano Ronaldo was facing 99 lashes for charges of adultery. This claim emerged after photos of Ronaldo hugging Iranian artist Fatemeh Hamami were posted. Now, touching a woman who you are not married or related to is considered adultery in Iran, but the nation denied the claim that Ronaldo was facing 99 lashes. Rather, they declared that his visit was received very well and affirmed that their courts would not charge any international athletes. But the Israeli-Hamas war continues, and so will fake news. However, for now, I'm sending it back to Johnny and Jordan.
Thank you, Jayce. And Jordan, it seems like every week we continue to see some outlandish claims by some people.
Yeah, and I'm glad we have Jayce to keep us in check. But one thing I do know for a fact is that we've had some presidential candidates visiting the state this week.
Yes, Jordan, and that's why I'm covering it this week, because I was able to go and see them. It was a busy weekend in eastern Iowa. Thursday through Sunday, 7 total candidates stopped in this part of the state. It all started off here in Iowa City. Vivek Ramaswamy stopped at Reunion on Thursday, where he hosted free speech and free drinks, as all drinks were on the house, along with talking to students about the First Amendment.
Those of you young people in this room, this is why we are doing what we're doing, so we are counting on you. January 15th, you mark it down now. Prove everybody else wrong. They think that you're not engaged, that you could care less about your own future and the future direction of the country. No. We're going to prove them wrong, and that's why we are starting tonight on a college campus tour that's going to continue across Iowa.
Friday was a busy day for everyone, including myself, as our candidate of the week hosted Nikki Haley in Cedar Rapids for a presidential town hall. Haley continued with her stance on what the U.S. should do to protect Israel.
Support Israel with whatever they need, whenever they need it. Eliminate Hamas, not weaken them, eliminate Hamas, and do everything we can to bring our hostages home.
Later that night, Haley and Ramaswamy joined Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, Doug Burgum, Asa Hutchinson, and Ryan Binkley in Coralville for Representative Mariannette Miller Meeks' tailgating party. This time, the stage was replaced with the back of a pickup truck for candidates to talk to the crowd.
Here's the deal. Yeah, Mexico's just not going to give you money. The way you have Mexico pay for the wall is you impose fees on the remittances that people send back to Mexico from America and Central America and South America. You'll raise billions of dollars and we will construct that border wall. This country will be safer as a result.
You've got to be able to reform your asylum laws so it's not catch and release. You've got to increase the investment in your infrastructure, and you have to partner with Mexico to go after the cartel.
Then before hitting the road, Doug Burgum held a Johnson County meet and greet with potential voters. Burgum discussed who and what the biggest threat to America is.
Debate stage with me, on the first debate stage, I was the only one that mentioned China. We're in a Cold War with China, we're in a proxy war with Russia, we're in a proxy war with Iran now since the last debate.
And Jordan, while it was a busy week on myself, it is nice seeing these presidential candidates not only come back to Iowa, but come to the Iowa City area.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see where these candidates head next in the state. Now, Cara was talking to us before the show, and she has something that she would like you to consider.
Thanks, Jordan. And the scramble to find a new Speaker of the House is still ongoing, and House Republicans had a very busy day. Like Jay said, just mere hours after Tom Emmer was nominated by Republicans to be a new candidate for Speaker of the House, he dropped his bid. Now, there's no good time for the House to be frozen, but now is especially bad, as Congress is facing a major funding deadline in November, and a war between Russia and Ukraine and Israel's war against Hamas both rage on. No speaker vote is expected on the House floor tonight, but they're supposed to be meeting tomorrow. Right now, with all these deadlines and conflicts bearing down, the most important thing is that someone from either party just budges, just decides to make a compromise. Right now, what we need isn't necessarily the perfect speaker, we just need a speaker so that the government can get moving and start doing the things that they need to do. And some promising news that arose after filming this segment is that the House does have a new speaker. This morning, Republican Representative Mike Johnson secured the Speaker's gavel with unanimous support from House Republicans. There were 222 votes for Johnson and 209 votes for Democratic candidate Hakeem Jeffries. The House is now voting to pass a resolution in support of Israel against the Hamas attacks.
Thanks, Cara, and thank you for tuning in tonight to The Update, where you'll find all your news and politics.
And tune in next week for more updates from the local level to the nationwide level.
From The Update, I'm Johnny Valtman.
And I'm Jordan Tovar. Have a wonderful night.